Your bedroom is not a sleep environment. It was built to look like one. The bed, the pillows, the curtains pulled at night. It has every signal of a room designed for rest. But the structure behind those signals is working against you. The four features found in almost every bedroom built in the last 50 years, the lighting, the temperature, the screens, the mirror placement, are not neutral. Each one sends a specific instruction to your nervous system, and none of those instructions say sleep. Most people blame their mattress. They buy a new one. The problem returns within weeks. It returns because the mattress was never the problem. The room was. The human body does not fall asleep. It is guided there. There is a sequence of biological events, a cascade of hormonal signals, temperature drops, and neural transitions that must occur in the correct order before the brain consents to unconsciousness. That sequence takes approximately 90 minutes to complete, and every step in that sequence can be interrupted by a single environmental signal arriving at the wrong time. Your bedroom produces at least 4 of those signals every night. The first is light color. Your brain contains a cluster of roughly 20,000 neurons called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the body's master clock. It sits in the hypothalamus, directly above where the optic nerves cross. Its primary input is light. Specifically, it tracks the color of light across the day, using that information to time the release of 2 hormones, cortisol, which promotes wakefulness, and melatonin, which initiates sleep. The signal it reads is measured in Kelvin, the color temperature of light. Midday sky is approximately 6,500 Kelvin. Sunset is approximately 2,000 Kelvin. The shift from one to the other is the biological instruction to begin winding down. It is a signal that has governed human sleep for hundreds of thousands of years. Most bedrooms are lit by LED bulbs between 4,000 and 6,500 Kelvin, the same color as midday. A 2026 study published in Scientific Reports measured what happens when 4 tunable LED lamps are set to 5,700 Kelvin, the common cool white used in most modern homes. Melatonin suppression, approximately 10%. The same lamps set to 2,100 Kelvin, warm amber, suppress melatonin by 0.1%. The difference is not marginal. It is 100-fold. Your ceiling light is telling your brain it is noon at 10 p.m. every night, and that is before the screens. The average home contains 7 screens. Most bedrooms contain at least 2, a television and a phone within arm's reach of the bed. Every screen emits light concentrated between 450 and 490 nanometers. This is the blue spectrum range. It is the precise wavelength that the suprachiasmatic nucleus uses to detect daylight. Research by Zeitzer and colleagues, published in the Journal of Physiology, established that ordinary household light at this spectrum is sufficient to delay melatonin onset by 90 minutes or more, even in people who consider themselves good sleepers. 90 minutes? Every night. Across a week, that is more than 10 hours of lost sleep preparation time. Across a year, it is the equivalent of sleeping through the wrong biological window, repeatedly, until the body no longer knows when it is supposed to rest. This is not a screen addiction problem. It is an architecture problem. The television is mounted on the wall across from the bed because that is where televisions go in a modern bedroom. Nobody asked whether it should be there at all. The second environmental signal is temperature. The body's core temperature must drop by approximately 1 to 2 degrees Celsius. roughly 2 to 4 degrees Fahrenheit, to initiate and maintain deep sleep. This is not a preference. It is a physiological requirement. The drop in core temperature triggers the release of adenosine, the chemical that produces the sensation of sleepiness, and signals the brain to reduce activity in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for conscious thought. A 2025 review published in the journal Indoor Air, which synthesized 134 peer-reviewed studies on bedroom environment and sleep quality, found that the optimal sleeping temperature for most adults falls between 18 and 22 degrees Celsius, roughly 64 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Temperatures above that range measurably disrupt sleep continuity. The body attempts to cool itself by increasing blood flow to the extremities, hands and feet, which is why people instinctively stick a foot out from under the covers. The thermostat in most homes is set for the living room, not the bedroom, not sleep. Most bedrooms run warmer than the optimal range, not dramatically, 2 or 3 degrees, enough to suppress deep sleep without producing the obvious symptom of feeling too hot. The sleeper wakes feeling unrested and attributes it to stress, or noise, or work, not to the room temperature they never thought to check. Here is where it gets worse. The third signal is acoustic openness. A 2024 review published in Exploratory Neuroscience examining the combined effects of artificial light and noise on sleep and health confirmed what sleep researchers have suspected for decades. The brain's auditory monitoring system does not shut down during sleep. It runs at reduced sensitivity, but it never stops. This system evolved to detect threat signals during rest, the sound of movement, the snap of a branch, a shift in the ambient acoustic environment. It does not distinguish between a car passing outside and a predator approaching. It categorizes sounds by pattern and familiarity. Unfamiliar patterns trigger partial arousal. Repeated partial arousals across a single night prevent the body from entering deep sleep stages, even when the sleeper never consciously wakes. Modern bedrooms are acoustically open by design. Thin walls, hard floors that reflect sound rather than absorb it. No acoustic separation between the bedroom and the rest of the home. Every sound generated in adjacent rooms, a refrigerator cycling, a notification tone, a television in another room, travels directly into the sleeping space and is processed by a monitoring system that never stops working. Old construction solved this problem without knowing it was a problem. Thick plaster walls, heavy wooden doors that sat flush in their frames, rugs and textile surfaces that absorbed ambient sound, rooms separated by corridors that created distance between activity spaces and sleeping spaces. Not because builders in 1920 understood sleep neuroscience, because they were building with heavy materials and separating rooms by function, and those decisions happened to produce acoustic environments that supported human rest. That knowledge was not passed forward. The fourth signal is the mirror. This one is the least studied and the most overlooked. When you place a mirror in a position where it reflects the bed, you introduce a source of perceived movement into the sleeping environment. The brain's visual threat detection system, which remains partially active during light sleep stages, is sensitive to motion in the peripheral visual field. A mirror that reflects the movement of a sleeping partner, or even the sleeper's own movement, can trigger microarousals, brief moments of increased brain activity that interrupt the progression through sleep stages without fully waking the person. Sleep researchers at the University of Michigan found that environments perceived as containing surveillance cues, objects that suggest something may be watching, produced measurably higher levels of cortisol during rest. A mirror facing the bed is, to the threat detection system, a face. It reflects motion. It implies presence. Most bedrooms have mirrors on wardrobes, on walls opposite the bed, or mounted on the ceiling above it. Not because anyone studied sleep neuroscience. Because mirrors in bedrooms are conventional. Because that is where they have always gone. That is not a design decision. That is an inherited habit. Let's pause here. These four signals, like color, temperature, acoustic exposure, perceived surveillance, are not unusual features of badly designed bedrooms. They are the standard specification of the modern bedroom in the Western world. The cool, white LED bulb, the television on the wall, the thermostat set for the living room, the mirror on the wardrobe door. Every single one of these is present in the majority of bedrooms built in the last 50 years. And every single one of them is working against the biological sequence your body needs to complete before it can rest. The question is how this happened. In 1900, the average bedroom in a Western home contained a bed, a washstand, a wardrobe, and a single window with heavy curtains or shutters. The room was dark by nightfall because the available light sources, candles and oil lamps, emitted light at approximately 1,800 Kelvin, shifting the room toward warm amber as the evening progressed. The walls were thick, the door was solid. The temperature dropped naturally as the fire in the adjacent room died. The room was not designed around sleep science. There was no sleep science. The room was designed around what materials were available and what functions the space needed to serve. And the biology followed from those constraints. The 20th century changed the constraints without studying the biology. Electric lighting made cool white light at full brightness available for the first time in history. Central heating made temperature control possible, but removed the natural cooling that occurred as fires died. Mass production made thin-walled, acoustically transparent construction cheaper than thick-walled construction. The television arrived in the bedroom in the 1950s, and nobody asked whether it belonged there because nobody was asking whether bedrooms were sleep environments or just rooms where beds happened to be. The bedroom became a room for everything: work, entertainment, social connection, sleep. A multi-purpose space where sleep competed with every other activity for the same hours and the same environment. Sleep lost. The cost of this is specific and measurable. The National Sleep Foundation estimates that 35% of American adults report sleeping fewer than 7 hours per night. The Centers for Disease Control has classified insufficient sleep as a public health epidemic. Chronic sleep deprivation, defined as regularly sleeping less than the recommended 7 to 9 hours, is associated with elevated cortisol levels, impaired glucose metabolism, reduced immune function, and a 13% higher risk of all-cause mortality, according to a 2010 meta-analysis published in Sleep, covering over 1 million participants across 17 countries. These numbers are discussed as lifestyle problems, as discipline failures, as the consequence of being too busy, too stressed, too addicted to screens. None of that is wrong, but none of it addresses the room. The room is where the sleep happens, or doesn't. And the room has been built for the better part of a century in ways that make the biological process of falling and staying asleep harder than it needs to be. The bedroom has been a technology for managing human rest for as long as humans have had separate rooms at all. For most of that time, it was built by people who lived in what they built, who experienced the consequences of their decisions across every night of every season, who learned, across generations, which configurations helped and which didn't. A room that darkened naturally as the evening progressed, that cooled as the night advanced, that was acoustically separated from the activity spaces of the home, that contained nothing except what sleep required. That knowledge was not sophisticated. It was not scientific. It was accumulated through the simplest possible feedback loop. This room helped me rest, and this one did not. The last 80 years replaced that feedback loop with mass production, electrical infrastructure, and a consumer electronics industry that had no interest in asking what a sleeping room actually needed. Most people alive today have never slept in a room built around the biology of sleep. They have only ever woken up tired and assumed it was their fault. It wasn't. The room was working against them from the moment they closed their eyes.